New at 4 now, still no public sighting of North Texas rapper Yella Beezy after he bonded out of jail at 10 o'clock this morning. He's charged with capital murder in the 2020 death of Dallas rapper Mo3. Prosecutors say Yella Beezy, whose real name is Marquise Conway, hired the hitman.
Mo3's closest friend walked into a Dallas courtroom and mocked a man facing the death penalty right to his face. This wasn't nerves. This wasn't a slip. This was Brandon Rainwater Walker, carrying years of history, years of loss, and years of unfinished business into a room where the law was finally doing what the streets never could. The energy in that courtroom said everything. And if you know what's happened between these two men since 2018, you already understand why Rainwater was never going to sit there and stay quiet. To understand that moment, you have to understand who Rainwater is in this story. He wasn't just someone connected to Mo3. He was Mo3's manager, his partner in building one of Dallas's most authentic rap careers. Rainwater handled the business, while Mo3 handled the music. And that kind of relationship, built over years of shared grind, doesn't get replaced. When Mo3 was shot and killed on Interstate 35E on November 11, 2020, Rainwater lost someone he'd been moving with every single day. After that, he became one of the loudest voices demanding accountability. Interviews, podcasts, public statements, he never let the public forget what happened on that highway. And when Yella Beezy was indicted in March 2025, Rainwater was one of the first people from Mo3's circle to speak on camera, calling for justice not just for Mo3, but for another man whose death started all of this. That man was Yella Beezy, born Marquise Conway, one of Dallas's most commercially successful rap exports. His 2017 single, That's On Me, went certified gold and cracked the Billboard Hot 100. On paper, a success story. But underneath that, a current of street conflict ran all the way back to the early rise of his career. In the same neighborhood, the same city, eventually involving the same people around Mo3. Both Mo3 and Beezy came up representing Oak Cliff. As they rose in visibility around the mid-2010s, friction developed. Some say over a woman, others say it was just the natural competitive energy of two ambitious artists in the same lane. Whatever sparked it, the smoke was visible early, with both camps trading shots on social media and in their music. Then came October 2018. Roy Lee Pate, a Dallas comedian and Mo3's close friend, had been publicly questioning whether Yella Beezy's ties to Oak Cliff were legitimate. That kind of public challenge doesn't get ignored. Roy Lee was shot in North Dallas and died from complications that October. Mo3 took it personally, and loudly. The very next day, Yella Beezy was shot 8 times in a drive-by on the Sam Rayburn Tollway. He survived. Nobody watching missed how close together those two events landed. The feud had crossed from words into something permanent. Both men publicly downplayed it afterward. Mo3 told Vlad TV in 2019 he didn't have real beef with Beezy, and Beezy later claimed he didn't even know who Mo3 was. But the streets and the music told a different story. Then, in January 2020, everything changed for Rainwater personally. He showed up to a Dallas nightclub called V Live. According to court filings and reporting, security told him to wait outside, and as he stood there, a guard approached him with a gun while Yella Beezy stood behind them. Rainwater tried to flee. He didn't make it far. He says Beezy and his crew chased him down and beat him in the street. Surveillance footage showed him being pursued and knocked to the ground. He ended up hospitalized with a dislocated hip. What made it worse, Beezy's crew reportedly walked back to the club afterward and were caught on video appearing to brag about it. So Rainwater didn't drop a diss track. He filed a lawsuit. Now, here's where the internet got it wrong. Rainwater's initial filing sought damages up to $1 million. And that's the number that spread everywhere online. But that's just the ceiling plaintiffs file for, not what they expect to recover. What a jury actually found was that Yella Beezy was liable for the assault, awarding Rainwater just over $325,000. Still a significant number. Still a jury of regular people deciding Rainwater's account was credible enough to hold Beezy financially accountable. And here's what makes that civil case even heavier. According to testimony from lead investigator Detective Eric Barnes, during the later murder pretrial hearings, the civil proceedings themselves became a flashpoint for more violence. The judge was forced to move the trial to a virtual format after fights broke out in the courthouse parking lot between people associated with both sides. This wasn't musical posturing. The feud followed these men into the courthouse itself. That civil verdict came down in 2024, before the murder indictment ever happened. So when Beezy was arrested in March 2025, Rainwater wasn't waiting for his first win. He'd already stood in front of a jury and walked out on the winning side. Because here's the real weight behind all of this. On November 11, 2020, Mo3 was shot in broad daylight on Interstate 35E. A gunman pursued him on foot after his car stopped and fired multiple times. Mo3 didn't survive. He was 28. The investigation eventually led to a grand jury indicting Yella Beezy in March 2025. Prosecutors allege Beezy paid two men to carry out the killing, a charge of capital murder for remuneration, which under Texas law carries either life without parole or the death penalty. Beezy has pleaded not guilty. He posted bond after it was reduced to $750,000 and has been living under house arrest ever since, with the trial now scheduled for August 24, 2026. Which brings us to July 2026, the hearing that put Rainwater back in the headlines. Over 2 days, prosecutors and the defense fought over whether Beezy's rap lyrics could be used as evidence at trial. Detective Barnes testified that investigators leaned on the music and social media not as the foundation of their case, but as documentation. Because witnesses weren't willing to talk, but these men had documented the conflict themselves, in songs. Prosecutors pointed to a 2019 Beezy track referencing money on someone's head and to Mo3's own lyrics about a bounty and predicting his own death. The defense pushed back hard, bringing in a University of Richmond professor who argued that jurors without hip-hop literacy tend to read violent lyrics far more literally than the same words in another genre, comparing rappers to professional wrestlers, characters built for entertainment, not confessions. Detective Barnes rejected that framing outright, testifying these were real people in a real conflict with real bodies and real money attached. The judge hasn't ruled yet on whether the lyrics come in, and that's the room Rainwater walked into. Reports and social media from the hearing describe his demeanor toward Beezy as mocking. The exact specifics of what he did haven't been detailed in mainstream reporting. It might have been a look, a comment, a gesture. But you don't need the specifics to understand why it landed the way it did. This is the man who got chased down and beaten outside a club by Beezy's crew. The man who took Beezy to civil court and walked out with a verdict in his favor. The man whose manager was gunned down on a Dallas highway, who has spent every year since demanding accountability out loud. If he looked satisfied sitting in that courtroom, the history behind that satisfaction runs 6 years deep. This case has become bigger than one trial. It's a test of whether rap lyrics count as evidence of intent or protected artistic expression. It's a test of whether Dallas delivers accountability for a killing that gutted a community. And through every stage of it, the civil suit, the indictment, the pre-trial hearings, Rainwater has been there, a constant reminder that this conflict didn't start with Mo3's death, and it hasn't ended there either. The trial is set for August 24th. Beezy remains under house arrest, allowed limited hours to record music, barred from contacting witnesses, still maintaining his innocence. Multiple major rulings, including whether those lyrics get heard by a jury, still have to come down before any of this reaches its real conclusion. But whatever happens in that courtroom, one thing is already clear. Rainwater stopped waiting on the system a long time ago. He sued, he won, and he showed up. And this time, everyone in that room knew exactly what it meant that he was smiling. What do you think? Is this justice finally catching up? Or is the internet reading too much into one courtroom moment? Drop your thoughts below and stay locked in as this case heads toward trial in August.